What is buried underneath Antarctica, and why are scientists now admitting that they're picking up strange pulses under the ice in the South Pole? Scientists have finally obtained evidence of something they long believed going back to the Cold War. There are no radio pulses. There are radio pulses emerging beneath the frozen continent, the area off limits to most of us, unless you're given authorization to go to a designated area of the southern continent. Otherwise, not allowed unless you take a cruise ship and you kind of go on by it. You get off for a little while and then you hop back on. But of course, the off limits areas, you're not going there. It's not going to happen. So this whole story involves particle showers, weird radar towers, and much more. Richard Syrett is the host of Richard Syrett's Strange Planet. He's the author of the upcoming book, Tales from the Rock and Roll Twilight Zone. And I've been listening to Richard for years. So when I learned that Richard was going to be joining us on the show today, I became very excited about that. Richard, great to have you here on Redacted for the first time.
Hey, Clayton, Natali, welcome to you, or thank you, rather, for having me on. I was just admiring your Grover cam. I'm sorry I don't have my Tucker cam. I've got a 90-pound golden retriever, and I usually have him sleeping behind me. But
that's the only way to work. You got it.
You got it.
Yeah, to have that nice warm dog in the studio here hanging out with you. So, Richard, I wanted to talk about Antarctica and some of the findings from this at least latest piece, and then I want to unpack sort of the mystery. And we've been doing, I've been fascinated about covering Antarctica for years here on the show. We've had many guests who've who've been there, who've actually were stationed there in Antarctica at the South Pole Station. But what do you make of this latest story and these weird pulse noises coming from Antarctica?
Well, first of all, it's very nerdy and scientific, and I am not a physicist. My grade 6 level of physics, my understanding is we're talking about cosmic rays and a way of detecting cosmic rays. And this theory that cosmic rays can slam into solid objects, like a sheet of ice, for example, and cause this cascading effect. Something they call a negative electron shower. Now, I've heard of baby showers and wedding showers, but this is something new to me, negative electron media showers. And this creates a radio signal, basically electromagnetic radiation. Now, I'm not talking about a radio signal like, I don't know, Casey Kasem from Alpha Centauri or something like that. I'm talking about electromagnetic radiation. And this was theorized like 60 years ago, more than 60 years ago, by the Soviets. You can replicate it in a lab, but they've never been able to actually detect it in the field. Up until 2019, all of a sudden, they start detecting this array of antennae under the ice, which were placed there actually to try and capture neutrinos, and we can circle back to that in a moment. But in 2019, they get 12 kind of bursts of electromagnetic radiation, radio signals, and they're saying, what the heck is that? Now, once you rule out radio noise from passing jets or perhaps radio chatter from a nearby scientific base, the Amundsen Scott South Pole Base, you're left with the likelihood that these are, in fact, the cosmic rays that were theorized back in the 1960s, again, penetrating solid ice. And these antennae were supposed to capture, or hoping to capture, neutrinos, which are one of the most incredible subatomic things in the universe. At this very moment, our bodies are being slammed by hundreds of trillions of neutrinos, which come from the sun. They pass right through our body without interacting with our atoms. They're called ghost particles because they're everywhere, they're invisible, and they can pass through solid objects. So this is what this array of antennae we're hoping to capture. Just to capture one is a Herculean task. Never mind that we've got hundreds of trillions passing through us at any moment. So that's basically what they've done. They've determined that cosmic rays can pass through solid material and produce radio waves, and we can now capture it, which is fascinating because we're always on the lookout for signals from outer space and deep space, and now we can use the Arctic to do just that.
I can't follow. Where are they coming from? It's not it's a phenomenon that was predicted, but we don't know where it was coming from.
Well, cosmic rays from deep space. A cosmic ray can be produced by the sun. It can be produced by a supernova. It can be produced by a black hole devouring a star. Cosmic rays, many scientists now believe, have a lot to do with climate. So-called global warming, not man-made global warming. Actually, it's caused by cosmic rays, more than likely.
Wow.
Okay.
Now, we've had guests on our show, one of whom, Eric Hecker, I'm sure you probably know, who was stationed at the South Pole Station. He was there in a plumbing capacity, working on the South Pole Station as a defense contractor at the time, and described it as the ice cube neutrino detector, massive ice cube neutrino detector at that South Pole Station. And there's all sorts of questions as to what sort of nefarious things they may have been up to at that South Pole Station. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what you know about some of the off-limits areas that we're not allowed to visit.
Well, most of the South Pole is off limits. Most of us will never set foot on the South Pole. There is this Antarctic treaty that's been in place there since 1959, so no one can make territorial claims. It can't be militarized, but who knows? When was the last time a treaty was actually followed? I mean, whenever my listeners at Strange Planet hear Antarctic, their ears prick up because, I mean, it's not so much about what happens on the surface of the Antarctic, it's what, lies beneath. And I, too, I've not spoken with Eric Hecker, but I have talked to people like Brad Olson, who has written volumes about the mysteries of the Antarctic. I spoke to him just before he was to depart on an expedition to the South Pole. I think it was in December of 2020. He was getting ready to cross the Drake Passage in December from Ushuaia, which is in the Tierra del Fuego, the southern tip of Argentina. Anyway, he went over there. He was hearing about, giant UFOs emerging from the melting ice. He was hearing about pyramids, which Google Map enthusiasts were spotting on Google Earth. We talked about these supposed Nazi bases, which were established towards the beginning of the Second World War, 1938, 1939. We had a German naval officer, Alfred Richer, who traveled to the Antarctic at the behest of Hermann Goering to establish who knows what, a scientific base or a military base. Could have been a scientific base looking for whaling oil, which is important, for food staples and so forth. The conspiracy theorists among us, though, suspect that they were building something called New Schwabenland, which was an underground base, or Base 211, as it's also known. What they were doing under there, that's anyone's guess. Some believe that they were actually in contact with some ascended master race, gray aliens, exchanging technology. I mean, it gets into some pretty spectacular territory here, but as I always say, ever since COVID, as far as I'm concerned, all bets are off. I'm open-minded about just about anything.
Question everything.
Sure.
Brad Olson, so you talked to him right before his expedition. We had a chance, I think, to talk to him right after his expedition. And one of the big questions we had is there this giant, massive, massive hole where, eyewitnesses have claimed to see, UFOs coming in and out of this hole? And so he addressed that when we asked him. Take a listen.
Clayton, I'll tell you, there is nothing beyond the pole. For hundreds of miles on the polar plateau, it is just flat, desolate, and nothing. Unless, of course, we're talking about this massive hole in the ice about 50 miles away from the South Pole. And I have numerous data points, which I have recounted in the book, that point to this giant hole in the ice.
Yeah, and he also talked about driving like 15 miles into this hole, Richard. So, this idea that this thing doesn't exist, I think that's been debunked now.
Well, from my understanding is, and the last time I checked this is true, if you go on Google Earth, the center of the Antarctic where this supposed entry into the inner Earth is obscured by cloud cover, like 24/7. It's always there. You can never actually see. What we have to work with, I suppose, would be the secret diaries of Admiral Richard Byrd, who supposedly traveled down there as part of Operation High Jump in 1947 and claimed that he flew into this inner Earth, and all of a sudden the ice gave way to this verdant landscape, and he claims, again, according to this diary, whether you believe it or not, he was accompanied by these UFOs. He was instructed to land. He had conversations with, again, he sort of described them as ascended masters, and he was debriefed after that mission, and we didn't hear much from Richard Byrd after that. But and the diary, I think, was published posthumously by his son. So again, it's wildly speculative. It's great fun, whether it's true or not. Again, I try to keep an open mind.
I mean, I'm so blown away by this. Like, anytime I can talk about Antarctica, I mean, I'll just wrap it up with this, Richard, which is, I could talk to you for an hour, by the way, but we have other stories to get to. But a Russian scientist had claimed that they battled a creature under the Antarctic. This was sort of an artist's sort of depiction of what they claim they battled, had surfaced basically saying that he and his colleagues went missing for like 5 days in a mysterious lake. This is Russian scientists talking about this, not, and this organism that they called 46-B, which was like some sort of highly intelligent octopus-like creature that then killed 3 of these Russian scientists. So you've got giant holes that are covered up by Google Earth. You've got pulses coming out of there. You've got defense contractors that won't let anybody else get to the South Pole with an ice cube neutrino detector and large craft seen flying out of there. It's I don't know. And now I'm sure you've heard the Russians are actively trying to scout for oil down there, which would be really a violation of the Antarctic Treaty. So maybe that's the next battlefront. I don't know. Richard, final thoughts.
Well, this is why they call it the Illuminati's Disneyland. Once you get to the Antarctic, I mean, you're in for a wild ride. I'd love to go there. I don't know if I'll ever make it, but it's definitely on my bucket list.
Oh, you and I both. Richard, great to finally meet you. Love your work. I've loved listening to you for years, and really a thrill to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Where can people find your work?
Strangeplanet.ca. Strangeplanet.ca.
All right, Richard, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching Redacted. We'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. It's totally free if you want to follow us or subscribe. And if we brought you any value at all, please consider sharing this video with a friend or a loved one on social media. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.